Breathless, hurried, run. Pause. The word tastes like copper and ozone in the back of my throat. Heavy breathing. My boots thud against the cobblestones of the Silk District, the silver hem of my gown shredding against the stone. I'm not alone. His weight is a crushing heat against my side. His arm draped over my shoulder. Blood, dark, obsidian and smelling of burnt jasmine, soaking into my silk bodice. Strained. Serena. Drop me, he wheezes, whispering, fierce. Shut up, Julian. I didn't break you out of the Iron Spire just to watch you bleed out in an alleyway. Behind us, the air ripples, a sound like tearing parchment, the telltale crack of a warp hunter's blink spell. They're closing in. Softly, desperate, I press my palm against the jagged wound in his ribs. My magic flickers, a dying ember of violet light. It's not enough. I need a miracle. Or at least, I need a drink and a very sharp lawyer. Fast-paced, rhythmic. 10 minutes later, the heavy oak doors of the Gilded Griffin slam shut behind us. The scent of expensive wine and sulfur hits me. It's the only sanctuary in Eldoria where the City Watch fears to tread. Witty, conversational. Mira is there, of course. Leaning against the mahogany bar, looking effortlessly lethal in a tailored pinstripe bodice, swirling a glass of amber liquid. Nonchalant. Serena, darling, Mira says, not even looking up. You're late for happy hour, and you've brought a stray. Is he housebroken? Because he's getting essence blood on the rug. Strained. He's dying, Mira. Legalities later, stitches now. Mira sighs, her fingers glowing with the cold blue light of a binding contract. Slowly. Fine. But if he survives, he owes me a favor. Soul level. Notary stamped. Pause. Suddenly the air in the room drops 20 degrees. Hushed. Calla steps out of the shadows of the velvet curtains. She smells of crushed orchids and dangerous secrets. She walks toward us, her eyes fixed on Julian's face, not with pity, but with a terrifying, hungry curiosity. Low, sultry voice. That's not just a man, Serena. Calla purrs, her hand hovering just inches from his throat. That's a shadow walker. Do you have any idea what the High Council does to girls who harbor his kind? Defiant. I'm a writer, Calla. I snap, my heart hammering against my ribs. I'm just researching a very intense chapter. Tender, intimate. We move him to the back room. The air is thick with the steam of Calla's tinctures. Whispering. I stay with him. I have to. Slowly, I peel back the ruined fabric of his shirt. His skin is pale, mapped with scars that glow with a faint rhythmic pulse. He reaches up, his fingers trembling, and brushes a stray lock of hair from my face. Softly. His touch is electric. It's not the sting of a spell. It's a low, thrumming heat that settles in my lower belly. Why? He whispers. Pause. Because. I breathe, leaning closer until our foreheads touch. I can smell the rain and the metallic tang of his magic. I've spent my whole life writing about heroes, Julian. I wanted to see if I could actually save one. Mysterious. His eyes darken. For a second, the pain vanishes, replaced by a look so intense, it feels like he's reading my soul instead of my face, whispering, "You didn't save me, Serena Vayne. You just stepped into the cage with me." Sudden, loud crash, fast. The front window of the tavern explodes in a shower of glass and gold. Shouting, "Serena, get down!" Biana Storm is on the bar in a heartbeat, her dual blades wreathed in flickering lightning. She looks like a Valkyrie in leather breeches, a wild, jagged grin on her face. "Finally!" Biana yells, the sparks from her swords dancing in her eyes. I was wondering when the Inquisition would show up to spoil the fun. Tense. 3 figures in white porcelain masks step through the wreckage. The Arbiters. Their silence is louder than the screaming patrons. Slowly, the lead arbiter raises a hand. A sphere of pure, blinding white light begins to form, a de-spelling field. If that hits us, Julian's shadow form will collapse. He'll be nothing but ash. Whispering. Panicked. I look at Mira. She's already scribbling a glowing injunction in the air. I look at Calla. She's uncorking a vial of something that looks like liquid starlight. Determined. I don't have their power. I don't have their steel. But I have the one thing the Council fears more than a blade. Slowly, with power, I close my eyes and reach for the ink-stained core of my own magic. I don't cast a shield. I cast a lie. The room begins to blur. The smell of jasmine intensifies until it's suffocating. I weave the air into a story. I make the arbiters see a room full of ghosts instead of friends. I make them feel a cold they can't escape. Strained. But Julian's hand grips mine, and his magic, dark, heavy, and forbidden, begins to bleed into my own. Softly. It's a rush of absolute terrifying ecstasy. Pause. Our powers shouldn't touch. It's the ultimate taboo. But as our energies fuse, the white light of the Arbiter's spell doesn't just flicker, whispering. It turns black, slowly, and then the screaming starts. Stirnia low, steady breathing. The silence that follows the screaming is worse. Pause. The Arbiters aren't dead, but they are altered. They stand frozen in the wreckage of the tavern, their porcelain masks cracked, black ichor weeping from the eye slits like ink on a fresh page. Witty, shaky. Well, Mira says, smoothing her skirt as the blue glow of her legal wards fades. I hope your insurance covers unauthorized fusion of forbidden soul magics, Serena, because that's going to be a nightmare to litigate. Fast-paced. Urgent. We have to move. Biana growls, her lightning-wreathed blades sparking as she kicks a piece of debris aside. The blackout spell won't hold. The High Council will have a legion of warp hunters here before the moon hits its zenith. Strained. I try to stand, but my knees buckle. The connection to Julian, the dark, thrumming heat, is still there, a tether made of shadow and silk pulling at my very center. Softly, Julian catches me. His grip is firm, his fingers digging into my waist. He's no longer the dying man I dragged through the streets. The black magic we shared has knitted his wounds, but his eyes, they aren't human anymore. They are voids of swirling starlight, whispering, intimate. You shouldn't have done that, he breathes against my ear. His breath is cold now, like a winter wind in a graveyard. The taste of my soul. It's a poison, Serena. Once it's in you, it never leaves. Defiant, breathless. Then I guess I've developed a habit, I whisper back. Funny, sharp. We're in the tunnels beneath the city, the veins of Eldoria, where the smell of damp earth and Calla's expensive perfume create a nauseating mix, mimicking. It'll be fun, they said, Calla mutters, holding her silk robes high above the sewer water. Join the Enchanter's Circle, Calla. It's all galas and potion tasting. No one mentioned wading through the literal bowels of the Silk District because Serena fell in love with a felony. Indignant. I am not in love, I hiss, tripping over a loose brick. I am narratively invested. Witty. Darling, Mira chimes in from the front. her hand glowing with a soft light to guide us. You're bleeding into his magical signature. In legal terms, that's practically a common law marriage in the shadow realm. I expect an invite to the execution. Pause. Dangerous. Low. A low growl echoes from the darkness ahead. Not human, not animal. Bianna freezes, whispering, "Hush, something's down here, something the council put here to keep the rats out." Tense, rhythmic. The scratching starts on the walls. Slowly. 1 second, we're walking. The next, the shadows themselves detach from the ceiling. They aren't creatures, they are void hounds, constructs of pure hunger and teeth. Shouting, "Bianna, left!" The tunnel explodes into a chaos of steel and sparks. Bianna is a blur of motion, her blades singing as they carve through the ink-like monsters. But for every one she cleaves, 2 more knit back together from the gloom. Desperate, I reach for my magic, but it's heavy, coiled, like a snake sleeping in my chest. Softly, "Let me," Julian says, whispering. He steps in front of me. He doesn't use a wand or a gesture. He simply exhales, slowly. A wave of absolute darkness rolls out from him. It's not cold, it's void. It doesn't kill the hounds. It unmasks them. It turns them back into the simple, harmless shadows they were meant to be. Pause. Mysterious. He turns back to me, his face pale in the dim light. He looks haunting. Beautiful. Like a disaster I can't stop reading. Tenderly, he reaches out, his thumb grazing my lower lip, whispering, "The council thinks I'm a weapon, Serena. They're right, but right now, I'm your weapon." Sexy, low. The tension in the tunnel shifts. The danger is still there, lurking in the pipes, but the air between us is thick, charged with the lingering residue of the fusion. I can feel his heartbeat, or maybe it's mine. At this point, I can't tell where the ink ends and the blood begins. Whispering, he leans in, his lips a hair's breadth from mine. I can feel the pull. The magic wanting to snap back together to bridge the gap between 2 forbidden things. Slowly. "Serena," he murmurs, "if I kiss you, there's no going back to your stories. You become the story." Breathless. "I've always hated being a spectator." I breathe. Pause. Sudden, sharp. "Excuse me." Mira's voice cuts through the heat like an ice bath. I hate to interrupt this moment of high-stakes eroticism, but we have reached the safe house. And by safe, I mean the door is currently being melted by a dragon fire charm. Fast, I pull away, my face flushing, determined. The door at the end of the tunnel is glowing white hot. Someone is waiting for us on the other side. Whispering. And they didn't bring a welcome wagon. Slowly, Julian's eyes flare with that dark starlight hunger again. "Stay behind me, little writer," he says, his voice dropping an octave. "This chapter is about to get messy." Chiakond, heavy, rhythmic thudding. The sound of the door melting is like 1,000 hissing snakes. Pause. Witty. "Oh, fabulous," Calla mutters, checking her reflection in a small silver potion vial. "If my hair frizzes from the humidity of dragon fire, I'm defecting to the Shadow Realm. At least they have consistent weather." Sharp, commanding. "Focus!" Bianna snaps. She slams her palm against the stone wall, her lightning grounding into the floor. "Serena, the moment that door gives, I need a blind spell. Mira, find us an exit strategy that doesn't involve a funeral. Strained. I can feel the heat radiating through my boots. My heart is a frantic bird trapped in my ribs. I look at Julian. He stands perfectly still, the darkness swirling around his boots like liquid velvet, whispering. Julian, can you hold them? Low, gravelly. I can destroy them, Serena. There is a difference. Slowly, the iron door buckles, turning a translucent, weeping orange. Then, crack. Loud, explosive, the metal shatters. Fast-paced, a burst of blinding crimson fire roars into the tunnel. Bianna screams, throwing up a kinetic shield that shudders under the pressure. Through the smoke, a figure emerges. Hushed, terrified. It's not an arbiter. It's a cinder wraith, a hollowed-out mage bound in scorched armor, fueled by the council's stolen sun magic. Shouting, "Serena! Now!" Intense, emotional. I don't think. I reach for the ink. Not the lie this time, but the truth. I conjure the smell of 1,000 old books, the weight of every secret I've ever kept. Whispering. Aura blind. Pause. Softly. The violet mist pours from my fingertips, thick and cloying. The wraith falters, its fiery eyes dimming as I wrap its senses in a veil of static and shadows. Tender. Urgent. But the strain is too much. I feel my vision blurring. Suddenly, Julian is behind me. His chest presses against my back, solid and cold. He wraps his hands over mine, his long fingers interlacing with my own, whispering, intimate. "Don't fight the dark, Serena," he murmurs, his lips brushing the shell of my ear. Invite it in. Slowly. As our hands join, the violet mist turns to obsidian. The power is intoxicating, a rush of absolute, terrifying clarity. I see the wraith's soul binds, the thin silver threads, holding its armor together. Fierce. With a flick of our joined hands, we don't just blind him, we unmake him. Pause, hushed. The wraith collapses into a pile of cold ash. The silence that follows is heavy, broken only by our synchronized breathing. Funny. Breathless. Well, Mira says, stepping over the ashes and poking them with her toe. I'll have to bill the council for property damage, and possibly for the emotional trauma of watching you two play Lady and the Tramp with dark magic. Witty. It was more of a collaborative effort, I say, trying to ignore the way my skin still tingles where Julian touched me. Dangerous. Calla is staring at the end of the corridor, where a single golden light flickers. Slowly. That's not the exit, Mira. That's the Vault of Whispers. We're in the heart of the palace. Mysterious. Julian's grip on my hand tightens. The council isn't just hunting me, Serena. They're hiding something in there. Something that belongs to my people. Softly, I look at my friends. Mira's sharp intellect, Bianna's raw courage, Calla's deadly grace. And then I look at Julian, the man who is becoming the only story I want to write. Determined. Then I guess we're breaking into a vault tonight, I say, a small, dangerous smile playing on my lips. I've always preferred a heist to a tragedy anyway. Slowly, whispering. But as we move toward the golden light, the shadows at our feet begin to whisper my name. Pause. The story isn't over. It's just getting started. Whispering. And the ink is starting to burn.